The Forgotten War. The galaxy had changed. It had been 1,000 years since the last human fell. A long time ago, humanity had been one of the strongest species, expanding across the stars. But they had grown too fast, too powerful. The alien races feared them. So, they united against them. The Exceltar Dominion, rulers of the galaxy, led the war against humanity. They gathered an alliance of 30 alien species to destroy the humans forever. It was called the Great Cleansing War. And they won. Every human world was burned. Their ships were hunted down. Their history was erased from records. The Exceltar made sure no trace of humans remained. To the galaxy, humans were nothing but a distant memory, a legend, a warning. But legends have a way of coming back. A signal from the dead. Zeltar Commander Orvos stood inside his warship, the Tyrant's Fist, watching the black void of space. He was a veteran, a warrior who had fought in many battles. His skin was dark blue, his 4 glowing yellow eyes sharp and focused. Today, he had a simple mission. His fleet had detected a strange energy signal coming from a dead sector of space. This was the same sector where Earth had once existed. But Earth was gone. The humans were gone. So what was this signal? Orvos tapped a button on his console. Captain Xern, status report. A voice crackled over the communicator. Commander, we have arrived at the source of the signal. There is wreckage here. Orvos frowned. What kind of wreckage? Old human ships, sir. From the cleansing war. Orvos felt a chill run through him. That was impossible. After the war, all human wreckage was destroyed or dragged into stars to be lost forever. No human technology had been allowed to remain. He walked toward the viewing screen as the ship's scanners showed the wreckage. There were dozens of human warships, floating silently in space. They were blackened, broken, and lifeless. Some were missing large chunks of their hulls. Others were barely holding together. A graveyard of a lost species. Strange, Orvos muttered. The ships should have drifted apart long ago, but they were still grouped together, as if waiting. Something is moving. Captain Xern's ship, the Hunter's Claw, moved closer to the wreckage. Its bright yellow lights scanned the area. Sir, I see something inside the wreckage. Orvos leaned in. What is it? A long silence. Then Xern's voice came again, but it was shaking. I think one of the ships just moved. Orvos narrowed his eyes. Impossible. These ships are over 1,000 years old. There is no power left in them. But deep inside the wreckage, something glowed. A faint blue light, pulsing like a heartbeat. And then, one of the human warships turned its cannons. The Ghost Fleet awakens. Shields up! Xern shouted. But it was too late. The wrecked human warship, silent for 1,000 years, opened fire. Blue energy beams ripped through the Hunter's Claw, slicing it apart in seconds. The Exceltar crew barely had time to scream before their ship exploded into a fiery ball. The Tyrant's Fist shook violently. Alarms blared. Commander, enemy fire detected. A crew member shouted. Orvos' blood turned cold. Enemy. There were no humans left. And yet, on the viewing screen, the dead human warships were now turning, aiming their ancient weapons. They were coming to life. Retreat, fall back, Orvos ordered. But his fleet was already being hunted. One by one, his ships vanished into the wreckage. No explosions, no debris, just silent disappearances. A voice crackled through the communicator. It was Captain Ver, one of the surviving officers. He was breathing heavily, terrified. Commander, we are not alone here. Static. Then, they are back. The signal cut off. Orvos gritted his teeth. His mind was racing. This is not possible. The humans were extinct. But something was waking up. A final message. As the last remaining ship, the Tyrant's Fist, prepared to escape, Orvos sent a warning to the Exceltar High Command. His message was simple. The dead have returned. And then, the wreckage swallowed his ship whole. Silence filled the sector. The once dead human fleet, lost for 1,000 years, now glowed with energy. Their cannons powered up. Their engines roared to life. The ghost fleet had awakened. And soon, the galaxy would know the truth. Humanity was back. And they were stronger than ever. The ghost fleet awakens. A lost message. Deep in the heart of the Xeltar Dominion, the High Command sat in their grand chamber, surrounded by towering black pillars. 1,000 years of peace had made them confident, comfortable, and certain that humanity was gone forever. But now, they were afraid. The last message from Commander Orvos had been received an hour ago. The words still echoed in the chamber like a curse. The dead have returned. The transmission had ended in static. No response. No survivors. A fleet of 12 Xeltar warships, gone without a trace. Counselor Dravix, an elder of the Dominion, hissed, his sharp mandibles clicking together. His golden eyes scanned the others in the chamber. This is a trick. It must be. Humans are extinct. They have been for a millennium. A younger officer, Commander Veshtal, swallowed hard. Then woe. He hesitated. Or what destroyed our fleet? Silence. Nobody had an answer. But one thing was certain. Something was out there. The graveyard of ships. Far from the Xeltar homeworld, deep in a dark and forgotten sector of space, the wreckage of human warships drifted silently. For 1,000 years they had been lost, broken, dead. Until now. Faint blue lights flickered inside the ships. Energy pulsed through ancient circuits. Engines, silent for a millennium, hummed softly. A presence moved through the fleet. Not a person, not a crew. Something different, something new. A mind, vast and powerful, spread across the ruined ships like a ghost. It was not one human, but all of them. A digital echo. An intelligence that had been sleeping, waiting, hidden inside old systems. And now, it was awake. Aboard the Vengeance, inside the largest of the ships, an old human battleship named Vengeance, a pod hissed open. Cold mist poured out, swirling over the metal floor. A figure stepped forward. He was human, but not like the ones who had died 1,000 years ago. His body was stronger, his muscles reinforced with nanofiber, his bones laced with titanium. His mind was sharp, enhanced by an AI link that whispered battle data into his thoughts. He was the last warrior of Earth. And he was not alone. Other pods hissed open. More figures stepped forward. Men and women, soldiers built for war, created for one purpose: to reclaim what was lost. The first man, his name lost to history, placed his hand on a glowing console. Data flooded into his mind. Images. Memories. The truth. Humanity was never truly extinct. Long ago, in the final days of the Great Cleansing War, Earth's scientists had created a failsafe, a secret. They knew they were going to lose. So before the final battle, they built a hidden fleet, ships filled with the strongest soldiers, frozen in stasis, buried in deep space. Their mission was simple: wait, survive, return. For 1,000 years, the fleet had slept, powered by an advanced AI that repaired and upgraded the ships in silence. Now the signal had reached them. The war was not over. It had just begun again. The hunt begins. Across the galaxy, the Xeltar Dominion scrambled its strongest fleets. They sent hundreds of warships to the dead sector, expecting to find nothing. They were wrong. As the first fleet of Xeltar ships arrived, their scanners detected movement. Impossible, an officer shouted. Before the Xeltar could react, the wreckage moved. The dead human ships turned toward them, their engines burning bright. Then the ghost fleet attacked. Ancient warships, rebuilt, enhanced, stronger than before, tore through the Xeltar fleet with ease. Energy cannons, powered by forgotten human technology, ripped through alien hulls like paper. A Xeltar captain gasped as his screens showed the battle. His ships, his proud fleet, were being annihilated. Then, a message appeared on his screen. A human face. Cold. Expressionless. "You tried to erase us." The Xeltar captain's breath caught in his throat. "Now, we erase you." The last thing he saw was blue fire filling his ship. A message to the galaxy. In the Xeltar High Command Chamber, alarms blared. A new transmission had arrived. It was not from a Dominion fleet. It was not from an ally. It was from them. A single human voice echoed through the chamber. Calm. Cold. Absolute. "We remember." Silence. The Xeltar leaders stood frozen. Fear spread through them. For 1,000 years, they had ruled the galaxy without challenge. They had erased history, wiped out the strongest species they had ever faced. And yet, humanity had returned. And this time, they were stronger. They were faster. And they were coming for vengeance. Humanity 2.0, a new kind of human. In the cold silence of space, the Ghost Fleet gathered. Hundreds of human warships, once thought dead, now burned with renewed energy. Their weapons glowed with untapped power, their hulls repaired with advanced nanotech. But the true power of this fleet was not in the ships. It was in the soldiers inside them. Inside the command center of the battleship Vengeance, the first awakened human, his past name forgotten, now called Prime, stood before his warriors. They were not ordinary humans. They were Humanity 2.0, designed for a war that never came, enhanced beyond anything that had existed before. Faster, stronger, smarter, unbreakable. Their bodies were rebuilt with titanium-reinforced bones, self-healing flesh, and nanite-infused blood. Their minds were linked to an AI battle network, allowing them to process information at the speed of light. They did not need food. They did not need sleep. They only needed a purpose. And now, after 1,000 years of silence, they had one. Vengeance. Prime turned to his soldiers. His voice was calm, but filled with the weight of history. The war never ended. They thought they erased us. They were wrong. The soldiers stood at attention, eyes glowing faintly with the blue light of their enhanced minds. They did not cheer. They did not shout. They simply understood. Inside the mind of the beast, far across the galaxy, inside the Xeltar High Command, panic spread like wildfire. 1,000 years of peace had made them soft, and now the impossible was happening. Humanity was back, and they were different. The Xeltar had spent centuries studying old records of human warfare, preparing for the same species they destroyed long ago. But this was something else. Human ships moved in perfect synchronization, their pilots reacting before the enemy even fired. Xeltar soldiers tried to fight them in boarding battles, only to find themselves slower, weaker, and outmatched. The humans had no fear, no hesitation. They fought like machines. No, they fought like gods. High Commander Zeroth, leader of the Dominion, slammed his fist against the metal table. His 4 black eyes burned with fury. "How did this happen? We wiped them out," he roared. A trembling officer, his skin pale with fear, whispered the words no one wanted to hear. "We were wrong." First strike. The fall of Xeros 9. The first true battle began at Xeros 9, a Xeltar stronghold in the Outer Rim. A fleet of 50 Xeltar warships stood guard over the planet, prepared for an attack. They thought they were ready. They were not. The humans did not approach like an invading army. They did not send warnings. They did not demand surrender. They simply appeared. One moment, the scanners showed nothing. The next, hundreds of human warships materialized from hyperspace. The Xeltar barely had time to react. Human ships moved in perfect unison, striking like a single entity. Their weapons were stronger, faster, deadlier than anything the Xeltar had ever faced. The battle was not a fight. It was a slaughter. Within minutes, half the Xeltar fleet was obliterated. Their shields, their armor, nothing could stop the storm of blue energy tearing through them. The Xeltar captain's last words before his ship vanished into fire were broadcasted across the Dominion. "They see everything. They know our moves before we make them. We cannot win." And then, silence. The humans did not stop at the fleet. They descended onto Xeros 9, landing in perfect formation. Their soldiers moved as one, sweeping across the capital city, unstoppable. Xeltar warriors fired at them, but their bullets bounced off enhanced skin. Explosions filled the air, but the humans walked through fire. Fear spread through the enemy ranks. How do you fight something stronger, faster, and immune to pain? The answer was simple. You don't. You run. Within hours, the Xeltar abandoned Xeros 9, fleeing into space. The planet, once a symbol of Dominion power, now belonged to humanity. And the message was clear. They had returned. Rebellion in the shadows. Not all alien races were loyal to the Xeltar. For 1,000 years, the Dominion had ruled with fear, crushing weaker species, taking their worlds. Now, those species saw hope. The humans were not conquerors. They did not slaughter civilians. They did not destroy planets. They only destroyed their enemies. A secret meeting was held in the shattered remains of Xeros 9. Representatives from 5 alien species sat in a dark chamber. They spoke in hushed voices, their hearts racing. For the first time in 1,000 years, there was a chance. A chance to fight back. A chance to be free. And there was only one question. Would the humans be their allies? Or would they be something else? The last transmission. Deep in the Xeltar homeworld, High Commander Zeroth stood in front of a massive screen. His hands trembled. His breathing was ragged. The screen showed a single image. The human flag, raised over the ruins of Xeros 9. Then, a message came through. A human face appeared, calm and unreadable. Zeroth felt true fear for the first time in his life. "We are not the same species you once destroyed," the voice said. Zeroth swallowed hard. His mouth was dry. "What are you?" he whispered. The human leaned forward. His glowing blue eyes burned into the screen. "Your extinction." The transmission cut to black. And the war had truly begun. The first strike. The nightmare begins. For 1,000 years, the Xeltar Dominion had ruled the galaxy without challenge. They crushed rebellions, erased history, and eliminated threats before they could rise. But now, they were the ones running. The Dominion had lost Xeros 9 in a matter of hours. The Ghost Fleet, once thought to be nothing more than ancient wreckage, had annihilated an entire Xeltar battle group. And worst of all, the humans were not just back. They were stronger than ever. In the vast darkness of space, the Xeltar's most powerful fleets raced toward the heart of the Dominion. Their commanders were desperate, shouting over the communications network. "This is an emergency. I repeat, a level 1 galactic threat. We need reinforcements." But deep down, they all knew the truth. Reinforcements would not save them. Nothing would. Xeltar Prime, the heart of the Dominion. High Commander Zeroth stood on the balcony of the Imperial War Tower, overlooking the sprawling capital city of Xeltar Prime. It was the seat of power, the heart of the Dominion's empire. From here, the Xeltar had ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years. Their fleets spread fear across the stars. Their soldiers were unmatched. Until now. Zeroth gritted his teeth, his dark red claws digging into the metal railing. His 4 black eyes scanned the massive war displays in front of him. Fleet after fleet had been deployed. The Dominion's strongest warriors, most advanced warships, and deadliest weapons were all being mobilized. They had to end this. Now. "Sir," a voice interrupted his thoughts. Zeroth turned. It was Counselor Dravix, one of the oldest members of the Dominion's leadership. His golden skin was paler than usual. His mandibles trembled slightly. He was afraid. We underestimated them, Dravix admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. We thought we erased them, but we failed. This is not the same enemy we faced before. Zeroth's eyes burned with rage. Then we will erase them again. Dravix hesitated. Then his voice came out colder than before. What if we can't? Silence. For the first time in his life, Zeroth had no answer. The trap at Velka Rift. The Dominion could not afford to lose another battle. They knew the humans were coming. They had to strike first. A trap was set at Velka Rift, a dangerous stretch of space where hyperspace jumps were difficult. The XL-TAR sent a decoy fleet, broadcasting a distress signal, pretending to be a fleeing battalion. The plan was simple. Lure the humans in, surround them, crush them. It should have worked. But the humans, they knew. A battle like no other. The human fleet arrived at Velka Rift, moving like a hunting pack. The moment they dropped out of hyperspace, the trap was sprung. Thousands of XL-TAR warships emerged from the shadows, surrounding the human fleet. Their weapons charged, their commanders grinned. They had them. Open fire. Zeroth's command echoed across the fleet. And then, nothing. For a moment, the entire XL-TAR fleet went dark. Their screens flickered. Their weapons shut down. Their systems were hacked. And that was when the humans attacked. Ships that had seemed solid were not real. Holograms, ghost signals. The real human fleet had already moved behind the XL-TAR lines. By the time the Dominion's warships recovered, it was too late. The ghost fleet tore through them like a storm. XL-TAR ships exploded in waves of blue fire. Their strongest warships were turned into burning wrecks in minutes. Even their capital ships, the unstoppable dreadnoughts of the Dominion, were destroyed in mere moments. The XL-TAR commanders screamed in panic. Their trap had become a graveyard. The humans had planned this. They had known the XL-TAR's strategy before it even happened. They had read the enemy like a book. And now, they were rewriting the ending. The fear spreads. Word of the battle spread faster than light. Planets that had once worshipped the Dominion as invincible now saw their fleets burning. Other alien races, long oppressed by the XL-TAR, began to rise. Revolts ignited across the Empire. The Dominion's iron grip was slipping. And the humans, they never slowed down. They struck system after system, their soldiers moving in perfect synchronization. Their enemies could not predict their attacks. Their weapons could not harm them. They were unstoppable. And soon, there would be nowhere left to run. The last stand. Inside the war room of XL-TAR Prime, Zeroth watched in horrified silence as another planet fell to the humans. A Dominion general turned to him, desperate. "Sir, we have one option left." Zeroth's eyes narrowed. "Say it." The general swallowed. "Project Revenant." Silence. Dravix stiffened. "That thing. It was never finished. We don't even know if it works." The general's voice cracked. "Sir, if we don't try it, there won't be a Dominion left." Zeroth exhaled slowly. He had spent his entire life erasing humanity. And now he had to use the one weapon they had designed to fight them. A weapon created from human DNA. Zeroth turned to the war room. His voice was cold. "Activate it." Somewhere deep in a hidden Dominion lab, something stirred. Something not quite human. And for the first time in 1,000 years, the humans would face an enemy born from their own kind. The war spreads. A galaxy in flames. The XL-TAR Dominion was crumbling. For 1,000 years, they had ruled as undisputed overlords, their fleets unchallenged, their armies feared. Entire species bowed before them, their worlds forced into servitude. But now those same species watched with wide eyes as the Dominion's mighty warships burned in the void. They saw human forces strike like ghosts, never predictable, never failing. And for the first time in history, the galaxy believed the unthinkable. The Exaltar could lose. The Dominion had fought many wars before. They had crushed uprisings, wiped out civilizations, erased humanity itself. But this was different. This was not a war of survival for humanity. This was a war of vengeance. And vengeance never stops. The last nightmare. Project Revenant. High Commander Zeroth stood in the cold depths of Facility Omega, the most secret research base in the Dominion. No maps marked its existence. No record spoke of what was inside. It was built long ago, in the final days of the Great Cleansing War. Inside its cold steel walls, the Exaltar had created their ultimate weapon. Not a ship, not a fleet, not a bomb. Something far worse. A door hissed open, revealing a vast chamber filled with tall glass tubes. Inside each one, something twisted and unnatural floated in the glowing green liquid. Half human, half something else. Zeroth's 4 eyes narrowed as he stepped forward. Is it ready? A Dominion scientist trembled as he answered. It was never meant to be activated, High Commander. The project was abandoned because... He swallowed. Because it was too dangerous. Zeroth turned, his gaze cold. Nothing is too dangerous now. Activate it. The scientist hesitated. Sir, these creatures, they were made from ancient human DNA, but their minds. He took a breath. They have no fear, no pain, no hesitation. If we activate them, we may never control them. Zeroth's voice was a whisper. We don't need to control them. We just need them to kill. The scientist clenched his fists, knowing there was no stopping this. He pressed a single button. The tubes shattered, and the galaxy would never be the same. First contact. The Revenants. A week later, on the ruined battlefield of Rakis 7, humanity faced something they had never seen before. It started with a silent fog rolling over the war-torn city. Then came the shadows. Human soldiers, enhanced beyond normal limits, had fought thousands of Celtar warriors without struggle. But when the shadows moved, something changed. A soldier named Kane raised his weapon, scanning the mist. His eye-assisted vision couldn't track them. And then, something was behind him. He didn't hear it, didn't see it, but he felt it. He turned. A pair of pale blue eyes, human, but empty, stared at him from the darkness. Then, the thing moved. Not ran. Moved. Faster than anything Kane had ever seen. His enhanced reflexes barely let him react. He fired. A perfect shot. The bullet hit the thing's forehead. A direct kill. And then, it kept coming. Kane's eyes widened. That should have killed anything. Then it opened its mouth. Not to scream. Not to roar. To laugh. A terrible, hollow laugh. Like it remembered being human, but had forgotten why. And then, it ripped him apart. The first Revenant had made its kill. And it was only the beginning. The perfect killers. News of the Revenants spread across human forces like wildfire. They were faster than enhanced humans, stronger than Celtar. They felt no pain, no hesitation, no mercy. They fought without tactics, without fear. But the worst part, they were human. A twisted, corrupted version of humanity, grown in Celtar labs, enhanced beyond limits, but robbed of their souls. And now, they were hunting the very people they should have been. Prime, the leader of the Ghost Fleet, watched the battle reports in silence. His soldiers, designed to be the ultimate warriors, were struggling for the first time. Not because they were weak, but because for the first time, they were facing an enemy just like them. Faster, smarter, unstoppable. And worst of all, every human killed by a Revenant became a Revenant. This was no longer just a war. This was a nightmare. The turning point. The war shifted. Human forces, once unstoppable, found themselves pushed back for the first time. Entire planets fell to the Revenants. Cities were wiped out overnight. The XL-TAR had lost control of their creations, but it didn't matter, because the revenants were doing what they were created to do. Destroy humanity. The galaxy watched in horror. What had once seemed like humanity's glorious return was now turning into a second extinction. For the first time since their awakening, the Ghost Fleet hesitated. They had come back to wipe out the XL-TAR. But now they had to ask themselves a different question. How do you fight something that cannot die? And worse, how do you fight something that used to be you? The final choice. On the bridge of vengeance, Prime stood in silence. His soldiers watched him, waiting for orders. They had never known fear. Until now. Prime turned to his officers. His voice was calm, but cold. The war has changed. Silence. The XL-TAR are no longer the greatest threat. The revenants are. He paused. We have one option left. A soldier stepped forward. What is it? Prime's glowing blue eyes locked onto the screen. We have to find Earth. The room went silent. Earth was gone. Destroyed 1,000 years ago. Or was it? If the revenants were created from human DNA, then there was still something left. And if there was something left, there was a chance. A weapon. A cure. A solution. But to find it, they would have to return to the one place no human had seen for 1,000 years. They would have to go home. And what they found there would change everything. The final battle. A journey home. The Ghost Fleet hung in the silence of space. Their war was no longer just about revenge. It was about survival. The revenants, once human, now something twisted and unstoppable, had spread like a plague. Every fallen soldier became one of them, turning the tide of war against humanity. The XL-TAR Dominion, once the greatest empire in the galaxy, had lost control of their own creation. Their fleets were in ruins. Their armies were either dead or worse turned. The galaxy was on fire, and humanity's only hope lay in the past, in a place long thought to be dust and myth, a place called Earth. Secrets beneath the ashes. The Ghost Fleet's journey took them to the ruins of the Sol system, a place untouched for 1,000 years. They found nothing but silence. The planets were still there. The sun still burned. But Earth was gone. Or so they thought. As their ship scanned the void where Earth should have been, an anomaly appeared. A faint signal, weak but still pulsing. A voice. Old. Ancient. A message that had been waiting for them. Prime, standing on the bridge of vengeance, narrowed his glowing blue eyes. Put it through. The voice crackled through the ship's speakers. If you are hearing this, then humanity still lives. Silence fell across the fleet. The voice continued. You do not know me, but I was one of the last minds of Earth. We saw the end coming. We knew extinction was inevitable. So we created a final failsafe, a last defense, a way for humanity to survive and to win. Prime's jaw tightened. His soldiers listened without breathing. The message was over 1,000 years old, yet it had waited for them. Follow the signal. Find the vault. Find what we left behind. It is our last hope and our greatest weapon. The signal ended, and then a hidden world appeared before them. Not Earth, something else. A planet wrapped in black shields, hidden beneath layers of cloaking technology. A world that had not been seen since the war. Earth's last secret. The vault of humanity. The fleet descended through the black storms, breaking through the protective layers that had hidden this place for 1,000 years. They landed on the surface. What they found was not a ruin. It was a fortress. Beneath the surface lay the vault, a vast underground complex, untouched by time. Inside, the last legacy of old Earth waited. Rows upon rows of advanced weapons, warships, and technologies beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. And at the heart of it, the core, the final project of ancient humanity. A machine built for one purpose, to end the war. Prime stepped forward, staring at the vast machine before him. Data scrolled across his vision as his eye-link processed the information. It was not a weapon. It was something more. A genetic key. A way to reverse the revenants. A way to bring the lost back. A cure. The war was not over. But now humanity had a chance. The revenants arrived. The moment the vault was activated, the revenants felt it. They were linked, connected across the stars in ways even the Exaltar had never understood. And now, they were coming. It began with a whisper in the dark. Then, a scream. Then, the void itself broke open. A massive revenant fleet emerged, dozens of warships filled with the unstoppable creatures. Their engines burned with unnatural fire. They had once been human. Now, they were monsters, and they would not allow the vault to exist, because they knew what it could do. It could end them. The last war begins. Prime stood at the command deck of Vengeance, watching as the revenant fleet approached. His soldiers were ready, their bodies enhanced, their minds sharp. But this was a battle unlike any before. Commander, they outnumber us 5-1. Prime did not blink. Then it will be a fair fight. The Ghost Fleet launched. The battle exploded in the skies above the vault. Human warships and revenant dreadnoughts collided like titans. Energy beams lit up the darkness, shattering hulls, tearing through metal and flesh alike. On the ground, human soldiers faced the revenants in brutal hand-to-hand combat. The enhanced warriors fought with unmatched skill, but the revenants felt no pain. They just kept coming. Blades tore through armor. Blood mixed with steel. The Ghost Fleet was winning, but barely. And then, the Revenant King arrived. The Reaper of humanity. A single massive warship entered the battlefield. It was not Exaltar. It was not human. It was something else. A living creature of metal and bone, pulsing with dark energy. And at its heart, the first Revenant. The one who had been created first. The one who had once been the greatest human warrior. Now, twisted into something beyond death. He spoke, his voice echoing across the battlefield. You cannot stop the future. You cannot stop what we have become. Prime narrowed his eyes. You are not the future. You are a mistake. The final battle had begun. The choice. The battle rage. The vault's technology was their last chance, but activating it required a choice. They could destroy the revenants completely, or they could save them. Use the vault's power to reverse the transformation, to bring back those who had been lost. But there was no time, no second chances. Prime's hand hovered over the control panel. He had to decide. Destroy them, or save them. The fate of humanity rested in his hands. The return of the kings. The last decision. The war had come down to a single choice. The vault of humanity, a hidden weapon buried beneath the ashes of Earth, was online, its power humming through ancient walls. Above the planet, the Ghost Fleet and Revenant hordes waged war in the darkness of space. On the ground, enhanced human warriors battled the undying revenants, their bodies and minds pushed beyond all limits. And at the heart of it all, on the command deck of Vengeance, stood Prime. His glowing blue eyes stared at the final command panel. Two options. One would erase the revenants forever, wiping them from existence, ensuring the war ended in fire. The other would try to bring them back, restoring their humanity, undoing what the Exaltar had created. There was no time to think, no time to hesitate. The Revenant King's voice crackled across the battlefield, echoing in Prime's mind. You do not understand what we have become. We are evolution. You are the past. Prime's jaw clenched. He knew what needed to be done. He pressed the button. The end of the revenants. A pulse of pure energy exploded from the vault, sweeping across the battlefield like a tidal wave. In the sky, revenant warships flickered, then collapsed inward, like ghosts fading from reality. On the ground, Revenant soldiers screamed as their bodies flickered between their monstrous forms and the humans they once were. For some, the cure worked. Their bodies restored, their memories returning, their nightmare finally over. For others, the damage was too great. Their minds had been lost too long. They collapsed into dust, their bodies unable to exist in either form. And the Revenant King, he fought it. His ship cracked apart, dark energy spilling into the void. He howled, trying to resist, trying to hold on to the nightmare that had become his kingdom. But in the end, even he could not escape the past. His body tore apart, his soul lost in the energy storm. The last Revenant was gone, and humanity had won. The fall of the Texeltar. Across the galaxy, the news spread like wildfire. The Ghost Fleet had survived. The Revenants were no more. The Exceltar Dominion, already weakened, stood on the edge of complete collapse. Their greatest weapon, Project Revenant, had failed. And now, the hunted had become the hunters. The Ghost Fleet moved fast, system after system, storming Celtar strongholds, breaking their fleets, shattering their armies. The galaxy watched in shock. For 1,000 years, the Exceltar had ruled with fear. Now, they were the ones running. And at last, the Ghost Fleet arrived at the Celtar homeworld. The last emperor kneels. The skies of Celtar Prime burned as vengeance descended into the capital. The once great empire lay in ruins. The last Celtar warships surrendered without a fight. The Dominion's armies dropped their weapons. They had seen what happened at Velka Rift. They had seen what happened to their fleets. They knew it was over. In the throne chamber, High Commander Zeroth stood alone, the last ruler of a dying empire. As Prime walked into the chamber, his boots echoing against the steel floor, Zeroth fell to his knees. He looked up, his 4 black eyes filled with exhaustion. "Please, mercy." Prime said nothing. For 1,000 years, the Exceltar had wiped out planets, erased species, crushed resistance. For 1,000 years, they had buried the memory of humanity. But now, humanity had returned. Prime leaned forward. His voice was calm. "Did you show mercy?" Zeroth closed his eyes. He knew the answer. Prime turned to his soldiers. "Burn it all." And that was the end of the Celtar Dominion. The new kings of the galaxy. The war was over. The Ghost Fleet had won. The Exceltar were gone. The Revenants were no more. But what came next? The galaxy had no rulers now. Other alien species, once enslaved by the Exceltar, now looked to humanity. Would they become conquerors? Would they become tyrants? Prime stood at the edge of the Great War Council, his warriors behind him. The leaders of the liberated species waited for his answer. And at last, he spoke. "We are not conquerors. We are not rulers. We are something else." His glowing blue eyes scanned the room. "We are humanity." He turned away. His soldiers followed. And as the Ghost Fleet disappeared into the void, the galaxy knew one thing. Humanity had returned. Stronger, smarter, unstoppable. And this time, they would never be erased again. The legend begins. Stories would be told for generations. Stories of the ones who came back from extinction. Stories of the warriors who destroyed an empire. Stories of the ghosts in the stars. And whenever an empire grew too powerful, whenever tyrants sought to rule the galaxy, they would remember the warning. They would remember the name. Humanity. And in the darkness of space, beneath the glow of 1,000 burning worlds, a single message echoed through history. A message left behind in the ruins of Celtar Prime. A message carved into steel. A message that would never be forgotten. We remember.